Yuval David is an Emmy Award-winning journalist and international news commentator specializing in U.S., Israeli, Middle Eastern affairs with a special focus on topics pertaining to Jewish, Zionist, human rights, and battles against anti-Semitism and Islamic terror. A political advisor and strategic communications expert, he advocates for democratic values, civil rights, and the fight against extremism. He's a fellow at the Middle East Forum, a great organization, and a consultant to government and nonprofit organizations. Yuval.
Good afternoon. It's an absolute honor to be here amongst great leaders, people who've inspired me to push harder, to be louder, and to take greater action, whether people like it or not. Also the policymakers, the advocates who are here, who understand that human rights are not abstract ideals, they are lived realities, and for far too many, those lived realities are under siege. I'm most honored to stand here in front of Mercy, who proves what leadership is, who proves what happens when you don't live as a victim, but you live as a resilient, determined survivor who takes what happened to you and drives forward into leadership, to inspire other victims to live beautifully, to live openly when you can, and to force other people who are not taking action to take greater action. You are one of the greatest heroes in this room, and I'm honored to speak in front of you. Today's discussion is not about some distant crisis. There are Nigerians in this room who understand that that crisis is at home. But this isn't a distant crisis to one land. It is about a present and escalating crisis that is spreading across the world, across Nigeria. Islamist and jihadist terror groups are waging a campaign of brutality, of systematic, targeted relentlessness. This is not random violence. This is ideological warfare. That same ideological warfare is happening here in the United States. We have had terrorist incidents that happened in the United States, and somehow all of these Americans are not paying attention to them. One of which that shocked me was before the Super Bowl a couple years ago, there was an ISIS terrorist who drove a truck across Bourbon Street in New Orleans. But because the NFL was having a Super Bowl that week, people quieted it down to not talk about it. There is this willful ignorance that is happening, and we cannot be afraid to address who is perpetrating it. But now we speak about Nigeria, finally. To speak about Nigeria on Capitol Hill, because the victims overwhelmingly are Christians and other vulnerable communities. For years, I partnered with governmental and non-governmental agencies in the United States and Israel and internationally to help women and LGBTQ people. That's how I was introduced to Nigeria, when we tried to help women and LGBT people flee severe oppression, flee from sex slavery, or let's use the harsher word, rape, to flee for their lives. And yet there are so many other people who are in need of help. And I thought, wow, now that it's happening to the Christian community and people are speaking out about what is happening to Christians in Nigeria, maybe the Christians around the world will rise up. I'm shocked. As a Jew, as a Jewish activist, when I rise up whenever a Jew is being persecuted anywhere in the world, why am I not seeing more Christians rising up? There are 2.4 billion Christians in the world. If every one of those 2.4 billion Christians would rise up in support of your own Christian sisters and brothers, this would not be a continuing problem. The facts are stark. Churches are being burned during worship services in Nigeria. Entire Christian villages are erased overnight. Women and girls are abducted, raped, and forced into sex slavery. Children are kidnapped and indoctrinated into Islamist extremist militias. Clergy are executed in front of their congregations for refusing to renounce their faith. The violence is not only brutal, it is strategic, and it is designed to do exactly what Islamism and jihadism aim to do, to terrorize, to displace, and to erase. In region after region, this pattern is consistent. Christian communities are driven from ancestral lands. Farmlands are seized, livelihoods destroyed, entire populations are displaced. Survivors are forced to flee or face death. Families are torn apart. Men are killed. Women are enslaved. Children are indoctrinated. Forced conversions are carried out under threat of violence or death. This is not a random chaos. This is targeted eradication. And when communities are wiped out, when churches are reduced to ash, when generations are erased, that is not just violence. That is dismantling a civilization. So wake up, because Judeo-Christian civilization of democracy, is being dismantled in front of our eyes. Those of us who came to this room, those of us who take action and are considered brave or courageous, which is something I hate when somebody says, "Thank you, Yuval, for what you do, you're so brave." I don't want to be thanked. I say, don't thank me, join me. Join us in action. But there's a deeper failure here, and it's not one of policy, but it's one of moral clarity. In the West, there is no shortage of voices who are so eager to protest, to post on social media, or to perform outrage. Because when it comes to genocides, to real genocides, not the made-up ones, real human rights atrocities, we're facing silence. Selective outrage has become some sort of social currency. Social media hashtag activism has replaced actual advocacy. And too many self-appointed activists and advocates follow trends on social media instead of truth. Why are they following somebody who only posts on social media, who has 2 million followers, instead of following Mercy in every step that she takes? So there's a difference between standing for justice and performing for attention, because the cost of that confusion is measured in human lives. And even more troubling is this: there are those in the West who benefit from the freedoms of democracy, ability to protest against government, ability to wear whatever clothes we want or love whomever we want. And then those same people are supporting the regimes and the movements that would strip those very rights away. It's why I am no longer a Democrat. It is why I'm no longer progressive, and it's why I'm no longer woke. But my values never changed. Silence is not neutrality. Silence is complicity. Because there is a cancer that has been spreading, and we've been aware of it. And those of you who know about cancer understand that a cancer untreated spreads. We cannot be afraid to use specific words. The vast majority of terrorism that we see around the world in all of our lifetimes are committed by Islamists and by jihadists. We need to address it. And you know what? It's not only the Christian world, the 2.4 Christian people in the world who need to rise up as the leaders this world needs. It's the 2.2 billion Muslims around the world. If Muslims are not jihadist and if they're not Islamist, then speak out against members of the Muslim faith who are committing horrific crimes. The Christian world also needs to rise, because recognizing that while Christians are being persecuted, targeted, and places eradicated, like we're seeing in Nigeria, this is not only a Christian issue. Hindus, Buddhists, Jews, Druze, Baha'i, Zoroastrians, Jains, across continents, across cultures, across communities, they're facing the same threats. Different identities, different cultures, same enemy. An extremist ideology that does not tolerate difference, religious, cultural, or ideological. It seeks to dominate through fear, through violence, and through control. So my work as a political advisor, as a news commentator on air, as a human rights advocate, as a Jewish advocate, has made me understand, just as the Jewish principle says, "V'havta le'ra'acha kamocha," love your neighbor as you love yourself. If I want to help my people, I must help other people. And as I also try to awaken Jews, around the world, we cannot only help others, we must also help ourselves. We need to be bold to say what we are fighting for. It's not just our lives, it's our values. As my grandfather said, the best thing you can do, and he would say this after surviving the atrocities of the Holocaust and helping others constantly throughout his life, the best thing you can do is to plant a tree under which shade you will never sit. That is what we are doing here today. That is what these leaders are doing here today. That is what you are doing every day you wake up and speak your truth. You're planting a tree that will grow and flourish and help somebody in the future. So, we need to recognize the global pattern. Christians massacred across sub-Saharan Africa, Yazidis enslaved and nearly annihilated by ISIS in Iraq, Israelis of all faiths, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, targeted in mass casualty terror attacks, rocket fire stabbings, and kidnappings by jihadi groups, Jews targeted in synagogues across the United States and Europe, Hindus attacked in India and Bangladesh, Buddhists targeted in Sri Lanka, religious minorities persecuted under the Iranian regime, LGBT individuals executed, tortured, and persecuted under extremist regimes, women stripped of rights or actually never even allowed to have them at all. Different communities, same ideology, same violence. This moment right now as we gather requires more than awareness, it requires resolve. If you truly have faith, you have faith for a reason. It's like I say, I'm short-term pessimistic, but long-term optimistic. It is faith that allows me to be optimistic. And if you have that faith, it means you're fighting for the future. You're doing something for tomorrow because you can believe that something can be greater than what we have. Not in fear, not in retreat, but in strength, in solidarity, and in shared purpose, to protect communities, to stand alongside other faiths, Jews, Hindus, Buddhists, and others who are facing the same violence, the same persecution, and the same threat. Because this is not a series of random, isolated attacks. It is a sustained assault on religious freedom itself. It's a sustained assault on freedom itself. And no community can withstand it if it stands alone. This is the time not just for interfaith courage, not just interfaith dialogue, but for moral clarity, not moral confusion, for action, not performance. Because when one faith community is targeted and others remain silent, that threat does not disappear, it expands. A cancer untreated grows. An attack on one faith is a warning to all, and a test of whether we stand divided or rise together. So the question is not whether the world is aware. The question is whether the world is willing to act. Policy must reflect reality, not narratives, naming the ideology driving this violence, holding accountable those who fund, enable, or excuse it, protecting vulnerable communities with urgency and resolve, supporting those on the ground, leaders, women, minority advocates who are fighting for survival, because without alignment between truth and policy, there is no strategy, there is only theater. Moral clarity is not controversial. It is necessary. And when people get upset by my angrily, as I'm doing right now, sharing the truth, if they think it's controversial, if they think it's challenging, I say, what makes it challenging for you? Let's have the conversation and let's focus on those values, because truth is not dangerous. Denial is. And silence does not create peace. It creates permission. So when I wake up and when I'm blessed to meet people like you, I remember why I have my own mantra. I don't fight back, I fight forward. And I need all of you to fight with me, and I want to fight with you to support everything you do. And for those who are still so silent, the silent majority that plagues many Western democracies, we need to make sure that they're not silent anymore. Because what comes for one of us comes for all of us. Thank you for having me today.
Whoa, I didn't know about you. That was good.